Hi people, my name is Nitesh from odmsays.com. Welcome to my channel Nitesh Lama. In this channel we will learn about website designing, domain hosting, WordPress themes, as well as plugins along with online earning methods. But today in this video the topic will be about how we learn about domain name and how do domains work. Okay, now moving on to the topic. So we often been asked by beginners what is a domain name and how do domains work. If you are a beginner, then you may have heard that you need a domain to make a website. However, many beginners confuse domain name with a website or a website hosting service. If you are just starting out, then all these different terms may sound too technical. In this beginner's guide, we will answer what is a domain name and how domains work. The goal is to help you understand and choose the right domain for a website. Here is a quick overview of the topics we'll be going to cover in this guide. What is a domain name? How domains work? How is domain name different from website and website hosting? Different types of domain names. Who is responsible for the domain name system? How to choose a domain name? How to buy a domain name? Frequently asked questions about domain name. The first question that we're going to resolve is what is a domain name? I would say a domain name is the address of a website that people type in the browser URL browser or bar to visit a website. In simple terms, if a website was a house, then your domain name will be its address. A detailed information or the explanation would be an internet is a giant network of computers connected to each other through a global network of cables. Each computer is connected. अरे यार मैं बात करी। ऐसे प्रैक्टिस सेशन है, चलो कंटिन्यू करते हैं किया। चलो हम इसे शुरू करते हैं। Cut and release. Okay. Now, what is a domain name? A domain name is the address of a website that people type in the browser URL bar to visit a website. So the one which is one see in on the screen is the address, the URL bar that we're going to talk about. So let's understand each topic or each terminology that comes across, and we'll try to understand what is there in the browser. Okay, so on the screen by which you can see that this is the browser that we have available, which is the Google Chrome, and this is a browser. And in browser, you simply go ahead and type in your terms that you want to go ahead and search, and either in the top bar is the URL bar or the search bar by where you go ahead and type in the questions in, you get through. So let's move on to the domain website. Now it states in the by which we have available states that domain name is the address of a website that people type in the browser URL bar to visit a website. Now I will explain what is a browser. The Chrome website, a browser would be, I would say that there are different browsers available in the market, though majorly by which people have been using our in day-to-day life would be Google Chrome. So let's go ahead and type in out there. We're going to type in the browser, we're going to type this thing onto the URL bar to visit websites. So this is the browser by which you can see on the screen, okay? And at the top by we can see, okay, is what the URL bar. So let's go ahead and type in our website by which is name odmcs.com, and we're going to click enter. While it's getting loaded, let's try to understand, since we're already clear what is a browser and where do you type in order to visit a website. So in simple terms, if your website was a house, then your domain will be its address. So this website by which you can see that this is my house by which website will be getting loaded shortly. Okay. Now say that a website was a house, so my website is a house, okay, in The domain name by which we have all typed in will be this address. So my address to reach my website will be odmcs.com. Okay. A more detailed explanation would be the internet, where it's a giant network of computers connected with each other. What is internet? Internet is just nothing but it's a big or a giant network of computers connected to each other through a global network of cables laid down. Each computer on this network can communicate with other computers. To identify them, each computer is assigned an IP address. It is a series of numbers that identify a particular computer on the internet. A typical IP address would look like, say, uh, I would say the IP address will be 66.249. Then point we got available in the 67.1. So this is one of the thing. Otherwise, it's not getting it. Okay, the internet is down, so let's try to get on top of it. Okay, let's go ahead and disconnect and connect so that it gets connected to the board out there. Okay, now the website is getting loaded and it's all up and running. So yeah, let's go ahead and refresh the page for the IP. Okay, now this is the IP address for a computer. Now an IP address is like an IP address looks like this, quite difficult to remember. I guess anyone would be disinterested to learn or memorize these strings of numbers that will be like, when I visit my website, if in case in early days you decided it was simply that is 66.249.67.1, or maybe just try to access some of the IP address available, which is not possible right now. So it is 66.249.66.1. Okay, so it's not getting access. Imagine that this was so difficult for anyone to go ahead and access any website. Okay. Now imagine that if you had to remember such string of numbers to visit a favorite website, it would have been so difficult to get through. Now the domain names were invented to solve this kind of problems available, which we had earlier. Now, if you want to visit this website, then you don't need to enter a long string of numbers instead, like the one which you can see on the screen that is not getting accessible, right? So, since we have the domain's name available, so we just simply did was we just had to go to odmcs.com and we have it available. So it's available right now, and the website will get pretty easy and simple. Now, if you want to visit the website, since I will mention that instead of entering the long string of numbers, instead you can simply visit by typing an easy to remember domain name in the browser address. For example, I will mention that it's williams.com and the website will appear right on the browser with that number more. Moving on to the second topic about how domains actually work. To understand how domains actually work, we'll take a look at what happens when you enter it in a browser. So let me get you a figure. Probably you can go ahead and understand that how the browser work and how the backend really works. So for example, that was what it should see on the screen. Let me go ahead and zoom it in case you're not able to see that. Okay, probably this would be easier. Okay. Now, how the name works, like you have a computer to say, and I just need a direction to visit a website, so we have a domain name. On a browser, I just went ahead and typed odmcs.com. Okay. Now this is simply gonna go ahead and move the server or pass on the information to the service provider. And the domain name odmcs.com is not in my database or cache. I'll try another DNS server. Now it's been tried. It's not working, so it'll move ahead to another IP address from a domain. The domain is linked to an IP address which is 7.0 70.42.251.42. This has been accessed on the DNS server. Now, All this information will be stored into this huge computers, stock of computers available. Once it's been rendered or has been accessed onto your system, it'll get onto the browser by which you can see on the screen right away. Now it's that simple to make it, but we don't want to go ahead and make it more complex rather than just visiting a website. So this was complexity, but you guys need not go into so depth of a topic. Simply, we just went ahead and got the things available for you to make it much easier. Now, when you enter a domain name in a browser, it's first now making the complex things easier, okay? Now, when enter a domain in a browser, it sends out the first request to a global network of servers that form the domain name system. That is step one, okay? As you entered my website name, okay, you enter a website domain name, it gets on to the DNS name server, that is DNS, okay? Now, once you hit on the DNS, then these servers look up for the name servers associated with the domain and forward the request to the same service. So I entered audiences.com, it went to the DNS server, okay, that will hit audiences.com. From there, it'll go on to my IP address, which will be 70.42.251.42. And then from there, the system will be redirected to my files by where it's been stored, that is on the server. We have it clear now that from there it's been accessed, and this information will pass on to computer browser. That's how we can see the website up and running. For example, if your website is hosted on Bluehost, then its name server information will look like this. Let me go ahead and copy it onto the browser. Okay, then it'll look like nsy.bluehost.com. And the second part of the DNS will be ns2.bluehost.com, by which you simply go ahead and enter, and these information will be directed to the name holder, your servers. So these name servers are computers, and to make it further defining, I would say that these name servers are computers managed by your hosting company. Your hosting company will forward your request to computer where website is stored. This computer is called a web server, by which we have seen in this last thing, okay, by which this last part is what we call a server, by where, or the computer where your website is stored. Now, this computer, which you can see, is called a web server. It has special software installed: Apache, Nix, and two other popular web server softwares. The web server now fetches the web pages and piece of information associated with it. Finally, it sends the data back to the browser. Once you put in the address on your URL bar, it will move on to the DNS. It's gonna hit the address, that is audiences.com, and move it on to the DNS server, which will be the IP address associated. Once it's been located, it will hit to the name server, to the server by where all the files have been stored, and from there it'll be directed to your browser, and it is that simple. And you guys need not even worry for that, because that all is been taken care of by your hosting company, so you don't have to worry for all this technical. It's just to make you guys aware about how the domains work, about how the DNS functions, what it will be an IP, and about the servers, and then from back to your browser. That is how the end user would go ahead and see your browser. So that is pretty much for about it, and let's move on to the next topic, which is about how is domain different from a website and website hosting. So a website is made of files like HTML pages, website builder softwares, images, URLs, and many more to say. If the domain name is the is the web address of a website. Let me repeat it. If the domain name is the web address of a website, say if ODMCS is the web address for a website, is making much more simpler. That's all we expected. Then the web hosting is the home by where your website lives. So my domain, which is odmcs.com, is the address. Okay. And bluehost.com would be the house by where the website lives. No, sorry. And the domain name is a web address for website. So this is a website. And in order to reach my website, this is my address. And by where this website lives will be Bluehost, for which that becomes my house. So a web hosting company is the place by where my website lives. And in order to find where the house is, that will be an address to search it. So odmcs.com becomes my address, and this hosting company becomes my home. So that's pretty much clear for you guys. Now let's move on to the next thing. So this is the actual computer that is a hosting company would be having. The actual computers where website files are stored. Such computers called the servers, and they are offered as a service by hosting companies. In order to create a website, you need both domain name and web hosting. Okay, let me make it clear. In order to have a website, you just need both. Two major things, by which is a domain, that stands an address, and the where it's been hosted is a place by where your home is located. Okay, that is your home. And in order to reach your home, you need to have an address. So a domain, you got it right. This is an outro. Let's move on to this. However, it is important to remember that there are two separate services and they can buy it, because purchasing domain is a different service, and hosting will be another service by where your website is being hosted or where your website dwells. And you can buy them from two different companies. For example, you buy a domain from namecheap.com and you host your website onto, maybe I would say, Bluehost or SiteGround. Now you may be wondering, how would it work if you bought these from two separate companies, right? So it is very simple, not that complicated. You just need to go ahead and edit the domain name settings and enter the name servers provided by your hosting company. Now, the name server information defines where send user requests to your domain name. But in order to make it more simpler, we always would recommend getting both the domain name and hosting from the same company. This allows you to manage them under the same account rather than shuffling between two companies. One is for hosting and the other one is for domain. कहा गया बस हो गया भी यार.